So I have problem number 17 that says, consider the following equation where m and m are real numbers. The quantity of x squared minus 4x plus m times the quantity of x squared minus 4x plus n equals 0. Suppose the four roots of the equation form an arithmetic sequence with the first and the smallest term being 1/2. What is the value of m minus n? So to start, we're going to find our two roots. So for our first equation, x squared minus 4x plus m, we're going to go ahead and factor that out to try and find our roots. Since it doesn't factor nicely, we have to use a quadratic formula. So we're going to do negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. So when you plug in your a, b, and c values, you're going to end up with the two roots being 2 plus the square root of 4 minus m and 2 minus the square root of 4 minus m. So then we're going to do the exact same thing for the other formula. So we're going to go back over here and we're going to look at x squared minus 4x plus n equals 0. And again, we're going to have to use the quadratic formula. So really the only thing that's going to be different about these two roots is that's going to be an n instead of an m. So our two roots are going to be 2 plus the square root of 4 minus n and 2 minus the square root of 4 minus n. So now that we have our four roots, we're going to go ahead and put them in an arithmetic sequence. So since we're taking since we want the absolute value of m minus n, it doesn't matter which one's bigger. So I just let m be greater than n just because I wanted to. So when we put them in order, it's going to be 2 minus the square root of 4 minus n, and then 2 minus the square root of 4 minus m, and then 2 plus the square root of 4 minus m, and 2 plus the square root of 4 minus n. So there's our arithmetic sequence, and we're given that the first sum is 1/2. So we're going to go ahead and set 2 minus the square root of 4 minus n equal to 1/2 and solve for n. So when you do all the algebra, you're going to get n is equal to 7 over 4. Now that we have n, we're going to go ahead and plug it into the second root that has n in it, which is our last sequence in this series. So then we're going to come over here and plug in n equals 7/4 and find out what this value is. So we're going to have 2 plus the square root of 4 minus 7 over 4, which equals 7 over 2. So now we have our last sum, or our last term of the sequence. So we're just going to go ahead and set them all out. So we have our first is 1/2 and our last is 7 over 2. So since it's an arithmetic sequence, they're all added or subtracted by the same thing. And this sequence, you just have to add 1 to each term to be able to get 7 over 2 as the last term. So the second term is going to be 3 over 2, and the third term is going to be 5 over 2. So now that you have what your terms are, now you need to find m. So you can either take 3 over 2 and set it equal to 2 minus the square root of 4 minus m, or you can take 5 over 2 and set it equal to 2 plus the square root of 4 minus m. I chose 3 over 2 just because that was the first number. So we have that 2 minus the square root of 4 minus m equals 3 over 2. And from that, we can solve and do algebra to find what m equals. So m is going to equal 15 over 4. So that we have our m value and our n value, we can go ahead and find the absolute value of m minus 4. Or m minus n, I'm sorry. So we have the absolute value of our m value, which is 15 over 4, minus the absolute, just minus the value of our n, which is 7 over 4. So that when you subtract, it gives us 8 over 4, which simplifies to 2, and that's your answer.